back to Reunited States, the podcast where we aim to bring back civil discourse to our national dialogue. From Los Angeles, California, my name is Tyler Ehrig.
And from Manchester, New Hampshire, my name is Jesse Saywell.
And we have very breaking news. Jesse, do you know what the biggest news of the week is?
What is it, Tyler?
Well, I just heard back. Donald Trump is in fact not dead.
What?
Woo!
What? I'm shocked.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. This might be the twist of the century in American politics, I will tell you. I mean, for days, we were like, where is he? Is he dead? I saw that he had a splotch on his hand. It means he has impossible cancer. But lo and behold, our glorious president makes an appearance, and we do see, in fact, that nothing can stop him. Truly, truly groundbreaking news, Jesse.
What is impossible cancer?
It's cancer that's impossible to cure.
That's terminal cancer. What is impossible cancer?
This is worse than terminal cancer. But Trump beat it.
It's like the vegan version of cancer.
Yeah, except it's fueled only by McDonald's.
Oh my God! Well, then Trump has it. If we're being honest, if it's just fast food cancer, I just keep saying, look, the man is mummified in grease and oil at this point in time. His organs have been mummified. He's gonna live forever. Look, this was a weird thing. I just kept seeing people, and again, a lot of people who I agree with on very many things, just posting kind of these crazy, absurd things about Trump being dead. I mean, there was just a lot of speculation about this, and I was like, and they're like, Stephen Miller's running the country. This is, Trump is gone, and they just don't want us to know about it. And I'm like...
Didn't you say Stephen Miller is running the country last episode?
Yes, not because Trump is dead. I'm not believing that Trump is like Frankenstein, just a body up there,
Well, of course he's not Frankenstein. Trump's not a doctor.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Frankenstein's monster, you're right. Yes, a nice clarification there as we get into the Halloween season. What I do want to say about this briefly is just... I'm so sick of the left now also being the conspiracy theory people. Like, what is going on? Since Trump has been reelected, I see so many crazy conspiracies coming from liberals and progressives, and people who, previously were reasonable people. And I don't understand what's going on, and it's disturbing to me. When it comes to conspiracy theories, I get why they exist, and I get that a heavy dose of skepticism is good for us as human beings, being skeptical of what has gone on in the world and what our government is or is not telling us and all of this. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every person that spouts a conspiracy theory is a crazy lunatic. And it's probably fair to say that, maybe for some years now, there have been some people who have been right about certain things and have come, we've come to find out they were right and they got laughed at in previous years. But the problem is that I still think that's a relatively rare occurrence. Like, maybe I just choose to live in a world where I do want to believe generally that the things that are in front of us are what people say they are, and you can say I'm gullible, you can say that I'm naive, whatever. I'm not an idiot. Like, if I smell shit, I'm expecting that there's something else going on, and we talk about those things on here. But I'm just so disturbed that everyone thinks they're the expert now. Like, everyone seems to think that they're the one who has pieced it all together and the conspiracies are real, and this Trump being dead thing is just another example of that. Is it possible that Donald Trump has some sort of health condition that they're not telling us about? Abso-fucking-lutely. It would not be the first time with a president, and certainly based after we saw with Joe Biden, who was clearly struggling much more than the administration was letting on. there is an understandable concern about that. But what I will say is, if that's the case, we're not going to pinpoint that. And the idea that he's dead, that like he's dead because we haven't heard from him in a couple days, the idea that this man goes 4 days without like harming the Constitution and we assume he must be dead speaks to Donald Trump, right? Like that speaks to the damage of Donald Trump and just how damaging he is to our society and our institutions. But I'm so tired of this, and like, you know, it's very clear, obviously he's not dead. We've now seen him since then. He's come out, he's answered questions.
No, actually it's a body double.
Yes, of course it is.
No, I saw that there are videos of people who I say it like I'm serious. There was videos that I was seeing of people that were literally breaking down the images, that one image of Trump being like, look, like this part of his skin is not in the right spot, and like they're doing like a straight up like CSI moment, trying to like investigate the picture like pixel by pixel, and they come to the conclusion not just that it's a body double, but it's a very specific body double. Like they identified a person that is currently impersonating Trump. It's hilarious.
Don't y'all feel silly? Like, don't you have better things to spend your time on? Like, he's actively dismantling aspects of our society, and y'all are like sitting there like the creeps in their basement who have been, you know, spewing QAnon shit for all these years. Like I just don't want to be in the same discussion as the QAnon people. I just don't want to I don't want to live in a fantasy world, or a world that like I think is, you know, something different than what I know. Like, and maybe some of these people, again, maybe they're right. I'm not going to sit here and say 100% that they're all wrong and that they should be laughed at. I'm just saying that, like, living in that world where you don't trust anything is a dangerous place to be. Regardless of whether you're, you know, on the far right or the far left or the far north or the far south, wherever you are. Like, I just think that's a dangerous place to exist. And it's not funny to say that the president is dead. Like to speculate on this, it's not funny. Like it's not especially comforting to me, because like I don't know. I mean, like, would I cry tears if Donald Trump died? No.
Is it not the same people that were telling you how they wish the shooter didn't miss?
It is the same people.
When he almost got assassinated.
It's a lot of the same people. It's the same people who are now saying that was staged. And I have another thing about that, by the way. You know, there's this recent video that I've seen spreading around of people saying, look, there's them taking these journalists across in front of the stage to take pictures, you know, to get the perfect picture of Trump raising his hand with the blood on him and all of this. And I just want to clear this up for anybody that's listening that has been concerned about this. This is a Secret Service protocol in the event of an assassination attempt. That is dating back to Ronald Reagan getting assassinated, or almost assassinated, in the attempt on his life by John Hinckley in the early 1980s, and even dating back before that with Bobby Kennedy in the late 60s. There had to be protocols set in place, because in those instances, both of those, but primarily Bobby Kennedy, the media started surging in and taking all these pictures, which is their job, but they prevented health officials from being able to get to the person who was injured and hurt. And that happened, you know, a similar sort of thing. This is when the protocol actually started to work, was when John Hinckley tried to assassinate President Ronald Reagan. So this is a Secret Service protocol that there is someone designated from the press pool. There are basically two people designated from the press pool at pretty much every event who get ushered by Secret Service over to where the thing is so that they can control the press pool, so that you don't have a whole swarm of people from the press trying to get up close to the space and taking pictures. So for any of you that have been saying, oh, this thing was staged, no, like somebody died. Like a man died next to his kids when that person tried to assassinate Donald Trump last summer, okay? And no, I don't think that Donald Trump was willing to have somebody shoot a bullet near his head for what? A publicity stunt that he didn't need. He was way ahead at the time. Way ahead in the polls. He was cruising to it. He did not need that to win an election. And the fact that all of these people are so infatuated with this assassination attempt that they think that it was staged is ridiculous. It's actually, like, that's really concerning that you think that. Because it doesn't make any sense. Like, that you say, oh, it doesn't make sense that Trump would do this. What? No, it does. It absolutely makes sense. Trump knows the minute that they say you can get up, sir, he knows. He heard, shoot her down. He heard. He can stand up. He knows I can raise the fist. It'll be this great photo shoot. He knows all of that. Like, that's part of what makes him remarkable, is that he has these crazy, like, political instincts. Like him or not, I mean, again, Hitler had great political instincts. Like, there's been plenty of terrible people who had great political instincts in history, and Donald Trump is one of them, like him or not. And so that was not a conspiracy. Trump is not actually dead. I'm just, can we live with the reality that we have? I get that it's a depressing world that we live in right now, but, like, we do have to have some semblance of what is real, right? Am I wrong? Do you disagree with me on any of this?
I don't disagree. I will say one thing, though, in their mild defense, is I think, and this is, knowing people that I've spoken to quite a bit that are sharing a lot of these, like, videos, Instagram Reels, TikToks, etc., that either poke fun of or promote that conspiracy, at least most recent conspiracy, that Trump was somehow dead and replaced by a body double, and ones about Trump before. I think for a lot of people, not everyone, but I think for a lot of people, this stuff is like a coping mechanism for them. I think it doesn't come from a place of quasi-maliciousness like QAnon does, because, and you can, I guess, pull what you want to from this theory, but, it seems like left-leaning individuals, like anyone left of center, basically, far or otherwise, on average, are much more affected emotionally by the Trump administration and similar conservative administrations than the right is affected in any way, really, by left-leaning administrations like Biden's.
Ooh, see, I disagree. When you say affected, what do you mean?
I mean impacted in a way that is emotionally and psychologically draining on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we were looking...
Not literally affected, not by policy.
Right.
Although that could be true. Not by policy. I mean by virtue of being just drained from it, tired, being tired. I think the left is more tired by the right than the right is by the left. And I think that tiredness is kind of what's leading a lot of people to find comfort in kind of these crazy conspiracy theories in a way, as a way of coping with it almost,
I think it comes down to the same thing. I think it relates to fear. And I think that the left is terrified of Trump and terrified of what's going on with Trump. And
I agree. Well, I think those are one and the same thing, right? The fear and the draining.
But I think that the right, it's fear. I think that we underestimate how afraid they are of liberals and Democrats. And their response to fear is different. Their response to fear is anger, right? That tends to be conservative people's, like, response to this sort of fear is like an anger and looking for somebody to blame and a direct sort of thing, and they want strong action and whatnot. Liberal people tend to be a little softer, and that's always the way it's been. They tend to be uberly emotional and whatnot. That's a generalization. Of course, it's a generalization, but it is, in my experience, it is true. And so I think that it comes from the same place. I think that the conspiracy theories on the right are very comforting to them. It's much more comforting to them to have someone specifically to blame and this whole like system than it is to acknowledge that yes, a black man was elected president of the United States. The country is changing. The world is changing. It's becoming a more multicultural nation. Yes, it is. There are gay people. Yes, there are trans people that exist in society that don't have to be hiding away, or they shouldn't have to be hiding away. That's very difficult for people to acknowledge and accept change in that way. And so that's where the QAnon thing comes from. They believe that it must be some sort of conspiracy that is allowing this to happen because in their circles, their friend groups, and their communities, that would never happen. I mean, this is so foreign to them. They don't have these sorts of, these people in many ways don't exist in their communities like that because we have chosen to self-isolate ourselves. And so in the liberal communities, it's a similar thing. They can't understand how Trump could have possibly won because they don't ever get out of the bubble. No one that is in their day-to-day life is a Trump voter. And as such, they think that it must be a conspiracy. I mean, that's why I hear from so many people why they now think the election was rigged. It's the same thing that why the right thought or bought in so easily to the idea that the election in 2020 was rigged. We simply live in different echo chambers now, and when you're not familiar with the lives of how someone else on the other side of the political spectrum lives, then it's a lot easier to think that there's some sort of satanic conspiracy theory, or in our realm, it's some sort of fascist conspiracy theory, whatever it is, going on, or just like that he's dead. I don't even know what you call that sort of conspiracy theory, or like the Pizzagate, the drinking of the blood stuff. Like all of that stuff is so weird and bizarre. But yeah, I think it comes from the same place, and I do think that they're just as impacted by the left emotionally. I just think they react to it differently. I mean, think about Biden in the first couple of months of the Biden administration. Let's say the first 6 months. If you drove outside of LA, and even in LA, did you see the stickers, the "I did that" stickers? At the gas stations, right next to the price tag.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody goes around doing that. Like they actively go, like, take the time out of their day to get those stickers and go around and do that because they're that angry and they're that upset about what's going on. So I don't know. I don't think that it's necessarily fair, personally, to say that the left is impacted more emotionally by a conservative president than the right is with a liberal president. They went nuts over Obama. I mean, the whole Tea Party movement came because they couldn't accept that there was a black president. That, to me, that's what it came down to. But I don't know.
It's a good point. Maybe it is just our circles kind of skewing data that we see on a day-to-day. But the people I do speak to, I think a lot of them are seeing the dead Trump memes and the people like talking about busting out champagne or whatever as as a means to escape reality, like intentionally as a means to escape reality, as opposed to something that they actually believe as like fully the truth. And I guess there is kind of like a distinguishing factor there, where a lot of people on the left, like, they may share these things, but it's not because they explicitly believe them. It's because it's funny enough that it gives them some semblance of an escape from a reality they don't want to be in. But I digress because I agree with you. I do agree with you. It's ridiculous. I think if I were to add anything to that, it's that conspiracy theories and spreading conspiracy theories, while maybe it helps in some way, whether it's coping or otherwise, ultimately the only thing it really does is discredit you. Like, the only tangible effect it has on you, the person who's sharing or spreading these theories is it discredits whatever you're going to say after that, no matter how true it is. I mean, that's how we treat QAnon, really, if you think about it. That's how a lot of people on the left treat QAnon, is that anything they say is immediately discredited because of all the crazy nonsense that they have been sharing for years and years and years. So no matter how true, the next thing they might say is the fact that they have QAnon on their, resume immediately discredits them in the eyes of the left, as it should, to be honest with you. But the same thing's going to happen here, right? Even if you're not sharing it with intention, then you really shouldn't share it at all, because it's just going to hurt you in the end if you want to use your credibility as a way to make a statement sometime in the future. They're going to be like, well, what about that time that you were sharing dead Trump memes? I mean, come on. So
it's a great point. I would only leave with you mentioned that it's a sense of comfort for people to escape reality. Escaping reality, when you're altering the reality we live in, like escaping reality is, okay, go to Disneyland. Like, it's not real. Like, go there, and I even have some issues with that and some concerns about that, because there are some people who just, the Disney adults thing, no shade, I love y'all. I know there's so many of you out there. But, like, some of y'all, it's a little concerning. Like, some of y'all are, I worry that it is, like, an inability to accept growing up. Like, an inability to accept that, like, you're purposefully putting yourself into something that is fake, that is capitalistic and fake in nature, and you are paying significant amounts of money to live in a fake world to avoid the realities of the real one. And I say this, I know this is a thing, but like, when you mess with the actual realities of the world, when you live in a world that is, altering the facts of what exist around you, that can be really dangerous. Doesn't really matter what level of facts you're changing, or like what type of facts you're changing. If you start to change aspects of the world around you and you start to live in a different reality, you're going to behave in a different way, and consequences are not going to be the same to you. Like, this is what, and I'm not saying that every person who believes this is a danger to society by any stretch of imagination. I'm just saying that, like, it's a slippery slope, right? If you start believing, something that is patently or provably false, or like that there is really no evidence of, if you start believing one thing and then you believe another thing on top of it, and it spreads until all of a sudden you live in a different universe than the rest of us do, even if a quarter of what you believe is true, that means 75 of it's not, right? 75% of it is not, and that's a lot of things to believe that are not true. Just dangerous. I just think that it's a dangerous way to be. We have to face the reality. It's also not helpful. Like, we have to face the reality that Donald Trump is in office, that a majority of Americans did vote for him, that right now fascism is taking over the government, and pretending that there's some sort of conspiracy that got him there is not helping us fight back, right? That's not actually helping anything. It's not productive. So, that's my last bit.
That's great. The 25% true thing is funny to me, because that's quite literally the Ben Shapiro argument, right? Mm-hmm. You only work in half-truths. You take a half-truth and you fabricate the second half of the story and claim that it's all true because some baseline, part of that theory is true, and therefore it all must be true.
What? That's not your goal, Tyler?
I can't say it is. I'd rather be Josh Shapiro than Ben Shapiro.
Oh, you and me both. What a handsome man. What a handsome man. Anyway, so if you haven't realized, vaccines have been in the news a lot recently, in spite of the fact that the director of health, the highest position in our government relating to health, Health and Human Services Director Bobby Kennedy, insisted in his confirmation hearings that he would not change vaccine mandates regarding mRNA vaccines and COVID vaccines, and that, he promised that he believed in them. He promised that to several Republican senators, including Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, who is a former physician, who really had a tough time pushing him on. But of course, he ended up voting for him and supporting him. And they're all horrified now that Bobby Kennedy has essentially forced out the head of the CDC, and a whole bunch of other CDC employees have resigned because they refuse to work under these mandates that he's making. And now you can no longer get a COVID shot if you are an adult in America unless you are 65 or older or have a health complication. You are no longer allowed to have a COVID shot. So what happened to the whole choice thing, Tyler? They were mad that they were forced to take COVID shots, and I can get on with that. Looking back on it, I don't think that mandating anyone to take a shot was a good idea. We do it with children, and I think with children there are valid benefits and reasonings for this. But children, of course, are not especially affected by COVID. So I don't know if it was fair to mandate it, but that's a discussion for a different day.
Yeah,
right?
It might be, because I disagree with that.
And that's fair.
We can touch upon that another time.
That's totally fair. I don't know how I feel about that, other than I just generally think that if somebody doesn't want to take the vaccine, then they should have a right not to take the vaccine. Now that we know that the vaccine is not protecting other people, it really is only protecting yourself, right? But I want one. I really would like to have a vaccine shot, and now I can't get one. Literally can't go to CVS and get one like I've been doing the last couple of years every fall. Now I am not allowed to because I'm not eligible. That pisses me off. What happened to choice? My choice was to get one. So I'm okay if you say you don't want to mandate and force somebody else to, but I did want one, and I do want one. I feel very safe getting them. I feel like my safety is now being impacted. I'm getting married in the fall. You're telling me that none of my guests can get COVID vaccines unless they're 65 or over or have a health problem? Like, that's crazy. So, yeah, I'm pissed about this, and I think a lot of people should be pissed. It sounds like certain states are going to try and subvert this a little bit, and I hope they do, because I think we should have the option. And for these people who are always about, like, choice and small government and all this bullshit, what the fuck, Bobby Kennedy? What's going on? Like, this is not small government. This is some crazy. This is you dictating what I can and cannot do and put into my body. And there's no reasoning. You have no basis of reasoning for saying that this shouldn't be an option right now. We've been doing it for years. This, mRNA vaccines, they're not new. So, this is just infuriating to me. I am curious to your thoughts, Tyler, before I, pop a blood vessel.
Yeah, I think it definitely has something to do with the $500 million in grants that he stripped from mRNA vaccine work when it comes to their availability for the general public. But I agree. I think this is horrible. Like, even if they were to allow the same limited number of people, qualified people, that we had in the beginning of COVID, where it was like, hey, here's like a list, here's like a list of people who could take the vaccine now before the general public, which was a lot longer than this list of 2 fucking things. Even that, I could be like, okay, so it seems like most of the people are covered, but where are the caretakers? Where is, like, my uncle and my aunt to take care of my grandma who's like 93? They can't get the COVID vaccine, despite the fact that if my grandma got it, she would die. So where are their, where's their exception? Where's the exception of anybody else who lives with or works with children? Where's people who live or have to interact with people who are over 65 or otherwise at risk of getting severe COVID. I don't understand. Well, I mean, I do understand why it happened. It's because he's killing funding, but I can't understand what the logic is in terms from a health and human services perspective. I cannot begin to understand what logic can go into preventing people from getting vaccines. And RFK has apparently had a long fight with vaccines because there's all kinds of things he's now saying about vaccines in other states, about measles, about, it kind of goes beyond the COVID vaccine stuff, because as much as I am of the camp that everyone should be getting the COVID vaccine, like, I recognize that the fear of getting a new vaccine for a relatively new, or at least no in like in the heart of society, is scary, right? Not FDA approved, all these things. Like, there were a lot of flags that made people be like, I'm not 100% comfortable with this. And that's fair to not feel comfortable with it because of the aforementioned, like, points. But to take that relative fear that personally I don't think is enough to not get a vaccine and help others and yourself, but recognize that that's your choice, to enforce that choice on others now, when thousands of medical voices globally are saying, yeah, get the vaccine. This seems like a move that actively does nothing but harm the health of America. We've recently just had like a ton of COVID cases happen at work out of the blue. Like, it's not gone. Like, people might want to think it's gone. It's not gone. It's around. And it's around, and sometimes some people get it and it's not that bad, and some people get it and it's bad. Bad COVID's still around. Good COVID. Not as bad COVID is also still around. Like, it exists. People can get it. To prevent people from getting a treatment that actively prevents that from happening or severely limits the potential of it happening to you, who are you to prevent that? Like, Satan? Jesus Christ.
This is all just... Bobby's pissed off. Bobby has had a grudge against his family, against the Democratic Party, against a lot of people for many years now for not taking him seriously. And I can't imagine why they didn't take him seriously, considering all the things that he's done. And we've harped on the bear incident in Central Park and the whale head and the worm in his brain, all of that. We've discussed this at length, but Bobby's pissed off, and this is a retribution thing. This is just what he and Trump really do belong together, because they're just retribution beings. They're angry that they've been called crazy or that they've been called whatever, and so they lean into it, and they're just like, haha, because they're bullies. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is a bully. He's a disgrace to his name, first of all, because his dad was a fucking American icon. And his dad would have been a fantastic president. Flawed human, but a fantastic president. And he's a disgrace to his family name. And this is shameful. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And here's the thing, like, I agree with you. I think that the vast majority of people should be getting a COVID vaccine. I think it was 18 and up, right? That was allowed to get it. Under 18, you had to have very specific circumstances, newborns, all of that stuff.
And kids couldn't get it in any case, I don't think.
They could if they had like specific conditions that potentially put them at high risk.
Right, but not non-risk.
Right.
Children.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like, that's what I was saying before. Like, I didn't believe in mandating necessarily, like, COVID shots for children and get them back to school. I didn't know how I felt about that, because kids don't die from COVID generally. It's very rare. But I do think that, like, when I have gotten COVID, if it has been recently after the shot, my cases have been so much more mild. Whereas The time that I got COVID, where it had been over a year since I had gotten the shot, it was a very unpleasant experience that lasted for about 10 days. Now, was I ever close to death? No. I'm a relatively healthy guy. I was in my late 20s at the time, but I tell you what, that was not a joke of an illness. I did not enjoy it. I was in pain. It was unpleasant. I'm just trying to avoid that, like the flu shot. We're allowed to get flu shots because it, in theory, should lighten how serious the symptoms are of the flu, right?
And the flu sucks.
And the flu sucks. And COVID sucks. And I want to get a shot because I know my body, I know my immune system, and for one day maybe the shot I'll have some symptoms and then I'm fine. So why am I not allowed to do that now? I've been doing this for years. There's no evidence that it causes some sort of problem. There's nothing. It's just him being a dick. And again, these are the things that are impacting our lives, and it's going to kill people. This is going to make people more sick. It's going to hurt productivity. People are going to get more sick. Even if you don't die, people are going to get more sick more often. There's going to be all sorts of spikes around the holidays. It's going to cause problems with plans and people getting sick. I mean, there's a lot of people who get sick from COVID every year and they have no idea they have COVID, right? Mm-hmm. The minute that you get sick with symptoms, all of a sudden, it's upsetting plans, it's interrupting, family gatherings, it's causing all sorts of issues. And so I'm done with this shit. This is actually infuriating. Just because he has a grudge against the scientific community that he is instituting this and that he's leading this charge. And we should all be angry about this, and I don't think that history is going to look very kindly upon this when we look back on this. So I'm pissed. And this anti-vaccine sort of mentality that he has inserted into the right wing of this country, and it used to be just far left people, really far left people. Jill Stein were the vaccine deniers and whatever. Now it is a mainstream opinion to be anti-vaccine, and what we're finding is that Florida now is trying to kill all vaccine mandates in schools. So again, I don't know how I feel about the COVID thing, but this is crazy. You're getting rid of all vaccine requirements, the measles vaccines, all of this stuff. The stuff that we, as human beings, polio vaccines, what are we doing? We have eradicated these diseases, and now they're coming back because people like Bobby Kennedy Jr. are promoting this anti-science agenda. They have pinpointed a few select things where they have a grain of truth, as they always do, and then they explode that into some larger agenda in which you can't trust the scientific community and you can't trust vaccines. This is bullshit. You're a parent, my friend. I mean, how do you feel about this?
Not good, Jesse. Not good. I mean, I'm glad I don't live in Florida. I'll tell you that much. Not that I need a reason to be glad I don't live in Florida.
Yeah.
But this is certainly another one of them. This is sick. Literally. For the same reason I am appalled by RFK's COVID vaccine restriction. This is terrible. He is emboldening these crazy far-right people in Florida and likely other states as well to suddenly push agendas that they know nothing about, that they believe because it's founded off of some conspiracy theory.
And I don't even think some of them believe it, if I'm being honest with you. I think some of them genuinely are just doing it for political points, short-term political gains. I think some of them...
listen, if they're doing it for political points, then I'm considering them to believe in it.
That's fair.
I don't care if whether they do or don't. If they're promoting it, they believe in it. That's the way I stand on that.
Sure.
If Trump comes out tomorrow... No, actually, a better example. If Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has now all of a sudden been I better distance myself from Trump, she comes out tomorrow and says, I never believed any of the stuff that I was touting and supporting Trump. No, fuck off. Not true. I do not believe that because you already promoted all those things. You already proved to me that you believe those things by virtue of promoting them.
Jewish space lasers.
Yes, exactly. You believe your Jewish space lasers. Nothing will ever convince me that you did not believe in your Jewish space lasers because you promoted the Jewish space laser bullshit. For the same reason, all these people who are promoting these like anti-vaccine mandates, and now in Florida promoting anti-vaccine mandates in the schools, I don't care if it's political points. You believe in that, and you're a disgusting person for doing so because there is nothing scientific that proves that you are correct. Your actions will directly impact the health of our children, will more than likely lead to sickness, permanent disability, and maybe death in our children because of what you are doing in this one state. Because it's not just one state, it's not just one school. Even if it was just one school, if one school did that, kids from that school get sick and spread to other kids in other schools. This is why we need vaccines, because those things can spread. Diseases can spread, and vaccines are meant to restrict the spreading of diseases by ensuring we don't get them in the first place, or if we do get them, they're not in any capacity to be spreadable, right? This is for the health of our community, not just the health of one person. They're actively dismantling our public health. It's not just me or you, it's literally everybody. It's the old woman walking across the street. It's the newborn baby that's maybe in the ICU because they have some health complications at a Kaiser a few miles away. Like, these people are just as impacted as me or you. So when we have people who are like, oh yeah, we should, promote this stuff because I'm not getting no vaccine because, autism or whatever the fuck they want to say. Like, they're speaking so selfishly about them and their family that likely have zero health problems, which is why they feel entitled enough to say things like this and promote things like this. But then they are endangering, and in the worst cases, sentencing to death thousands, maybe even millions of people across the country that are at risk health-wise and who can very much die from something like the flu or measles or chickenpox or COVID. Nobody has the right to make that kind of call. Nobody does. What authority gives you the right to make a judgment call on the health of Americans in one of the most populous states in the country, who travel probably among the top 5 to have populaces that travel across the rest of the country and globally? And so you are endangering populations in other states and other countries. What gives you the right to make that call? I would love to hear it.
It's lunacy. And I, you mentioned other countries. Like, I've traveled quite a bit. I've traveled to plenty of what I guess would be called third world countries, though I really hate that term. Let's say underdeveloped nations. I always have to check. I'm having to get shots all the time before I go to various places, Egypt or Indonesia or whatever, whether it's typhoid or whether it's I've had polio stuff, like polio booster before I went to various places, South Africa. All of that sucks. But it also reminds me, like, every time that happens, it's like, wow, we mostly eradicated most of these conditions. Like, we have largely eradicated these conditions in our society through vaccines.
Yeah. Remember when measles was pretty much almost dead?
Yeah, and now it's
and then one person brought it back.
Right, it's now roaring back here, slowly but surely. I'm livid about this. And, don't fuck around with the lives of children. Like, if I was a parent in Florida, I would be pissed. Because, yes, I can still get my kid vaccinated for these things, but that doesn't mean that my kid won't get these things if 8 other people in the class,
an unvaccinated person,
right,
yeah,
are unvaccinated and still have it. Like I remember I had a...
Well, I mean, you're a teacher, right? Like, I imagine you've seen how much of, like, a, crazy, like, petri dish of diseases are in those schools.
Yeah, it's a petri dish, especially with the younger kids, but yeah, the older ones as well. Every teacher I know is like, I get sick at this point in the year or this point in the year. Like, especially with the younger ones. Like, you know this as a parent. Like, all of a sudden, your immune system takes a hit because, your child is getting illnesses for the first time and whatnot.
Hey, I only got COVID once in my life, and it was after becoming a dad.
That you know of.
So.
That you know of. That you know of.
That I know of. There. I mean, it was symptomatic COVID, I should say.
But anyway, yeah, like I just, it's infuriating, and I just keep thinking back to this kid I taught when I was at Arizona State, who was telling me, this is back, maybe 2018 or so, he was telling me, it's pre-COVID, he was telling me about how he got the measles, and he was like, I was vaccinated, but there was somebody in my class that was not vaccinated, and he got like 6 of us sick. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I didn't even know at the time that was a thing that could happen. Like, I didn't think about vaccines in the same way pre-COVID that I do now. But now they've somehow become a political issue. And I'm so pissed about this. I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of stupid scientific things being considered a political issue.
And being thwarted by conspiracy theories.
Yes,
we talked about conspiracy theories earlier.
Conspiracy people.
These are the conspiracy theorists in their most dangerous position. Being able to
not just live in reality?
Yeah. They are thwarting actual scientific fact.
It's awful. But that's what we are dealing with now, and all I can say is that if you can get a vaccine, I think you should get a vaccine. If you have kids, you should vaccinate your kids. And if you live in a state in which someone is trying to take away mandates for vaccinations of children, you should probably be voicing your displeasure with this. Because these vaccines have not caused autism. These vaccines have not caused death in children. And to be honest, if they have, we're talking very, very rare instances. I mean, like, infinitely more rare than the number of children who would die from these conditions otherwise. The numbers are not even comparable. So, voice your displeasure. I'm a pro-vaccine person. I want them. I'd love to be able to get my vaccine. So, also, call your states and tell them, I want to be able to get a COVID vaccine. Call your legislators and let them know, because I will be doing that, I can assure you. And if I can't get one in New Hampshire, I'm going to go to Massachusetts. I'll go to Maine. I'll go wherever I want it, because I want it. That should be my choice. It should be my choice.
You might say you will live free or die.
Live free or die, man. Jesus. In the state where, we don't mandate anything, that certainly shouldn't be mandated to us. Like, what we, this is crazy. Anyway. We didn't mention this last week, and we probably should have, but John Bolton, the former national security advisor to President Donald Trump, who then left the Trump administration, as so many people did in the first administration, and was then called, useless, and I didn't know John Bolton. He was very bad at his job. Very bad. Not a good guy. Not a good guy at all. John Bolton, again, being one of the, most hyper-conservative people, from the Bush administration and before, he's a hyper, extremely conservative human being. He's a war hawk, all of this stuff. John Bolton, not a guy I agree with on pretty much anything. But his house was raided recently by the FBI. And he's been a critic of Trump in recent years, and Trump has been kind of targeting him in Truth Social posts in recent years, and the FBI director, Kash Patel, also has made some aggressive comments in the past about John Bolton, and now his house is being raided, right? So much for the people who were when Mar-a-Lago got raided and all of this, oh, they're using the Justice Department, they're weaponizing it against their political opponents. Yeah, well, now the shoe's on the other foot, and you guys are doing exactly what you said the Biden administration was doing, which, for the record, the Biden administration was not doing. Let's just make that very clear. The Biden administration was not targeting political enemies. They did not do that. Just because Donald Trump broke laws does not mean that they were targeting political opponents. And they tried everything they could, to the point of appointing Milquetoast Merrick Garland centrist fucker
Milk
like
toast.
as Milquetoast Merrick as Attorney General. So I don't want to hear that fucking shit right now. I'm tired of this. No, now the Trump Justice Department and the FBI is actively using their powers as a weapon. And so we talked last week about what a scary time we're in and what dangerous times we're living in and what authoritarianism really looks like. I did think it was really important that we mention that on the show today. And Price should have brought it up last week, but it slipped my mind with all the other terrible things that are going on in this country and being perpetrated onto our citizens by the Trump administration. I don't trust the FBI anymore. I mean, Kash Patel is a scary, scary lunatic of a dude. We already shared his bizarre children's books earlier this year. But, I mean, is there any way that this is not some sort of political retribution? Like, can we really believe that it's not?
Of course it is. I don't think... John Bolton did nothing wrong. And yet,
not that we know
of. And certainly nothing that would feel like it constitutes an FBI raid, other than he was a critic of Donald Trump. That was his crime.
If he had done something wrong, you would have thought that the previous Justice Department would have found it out, right? Like it's been years since he was in a position of power, right?
Absolutely. This is his crime is critiquing Trump. And that is soon going to be an actual crime. We are so close to literally speaking out against the president would be a literal punishable crime. I feel like we are so close, and if he had his way, just for a second, he would make it happen. I guarantee.
Oh yeah,
you.
there'd be people arresting us as we speak.
Right. Yes, they would. Yes. We talked about it last week, so I won't spend too much time about, like, we know this is Trump flexing his power. This is another example of Trump trying to see how far he can go, using the Justice Department, using this or that. I think what I pull from this, and what I want to make clear about this specific move here, is that Trump does not care about political party. I think that's the message with this. He doesn't care about political party. He is not a Republican in the sense where he is out to protect Republicans and he's out here pushing a specific Republican agenda. He's not on a political side. He is on one side, and that's his side. John Bolton, one of the most conservative people in the party, he doesn't give a shit about that. No other Republican president would ever do something like this because John Bolton is a Republican. And they stick together and they protect their own. Trump doesn't protect anybody unless that person has his name. And even then, debatable. He doesn't care about your political party. He doesn't care who you are or who you support or who you supported in the past. He cares about, do you support him? That's the only question that Trump cares about when he's doing these loyalty tests and when he's deciding who's going to be his friend and who's not going to be his friend. I think more and more Republicans are realizing this, which is why you're seeing somewhat of a shift, at least in a portion of the party. But I think it's important for the average person to hear that too. Not just people in power. Because we're seeing now that even people in power, even Republicans in power, realizing that Trump isn't the leader they were hoping he would be for the party, that realization is not amounting to much. Their opposition is not amounting to much. He is already in the position, he's already in the place where he can kind of just fucking do what he wants. We could have every single member of Congress not happy with him and he wouldn't give a shit. He would find a way, find some way. Because he already kind of is. He is finding the ways to consolidate all of the power to him and him alone. So, to people who listen to this, he doesn't care about your party allegiance. He never did. Because he's not someone who is really a member of the party that you think he is. He's not a Republican. He is a Trumpian. That's all you gotta know about him. And someone who is that selfish, someone who is that self-conceited, that only cares, even in a system where people are like, oh yeah, two-party system is broken and you gotta destroy them all. Yeah, sure. That's a different argument, different conversation. Looking at politics right now, someone who only cares about themselves in such a way, do you really want that person to be your party's legacy? Think about that for a second. Do you want that sort of selfishness to be the legacy of you, your political beliefs, and your party? I sure as hell don't. And I hope you don't either.
And that was just brilliant. I am so glad that we talked about this. I was kind of like, do we talk about this? Do we save it for another week? Is it old news? And I'm so glad that we brought this up because that was such a great take there. And something that I think was really important for people to hear. So bravo. I was just really enjoying that. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is a great reminder for everyone. Time for us to move on to our favorite segment, Things We Should All Agree On. I'll get started today. So, I have been watching in recent days the new documentary that just got released on Hurricane Katrina to commemorate the 20th anniversary of what was a really horrible moment in American history. And if you haven't watched this documentary, you don't know much about Katrina, I highly recommend it. The documentary is now available on Netflix. It is called Hurricane Katrina, Come Hell and High Water. And it's a 3-part documentary. It is very in-depth, and it really lays out what happened and the horrors of what happened. And you're thinking, this is a natural disaster. There's been so many natural disasters, all of this. The disaster really comes from the response more so than the actual disaster itself, if we're being honest with Hurricane Katrina. This is a really horrible moment in terms of the federal government's response as well as state government's response. Like, we abandoned a major American city in a time of absolute crisis. And it led to thousands of people dying and literally tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of people being deeply traumatized by this horrible experience. And so, in watching this with Hurricane Katrina, you had whole neighborhoods in New Orleans. I mean, the whole city basically was underwater. And there's a racial component to this, right? New Orleans is and certainly was one of the most heavily black cities in America. And so much of the footage you've probably seen, black families stranded on rooftops. They were trapped in the Superdome. They were trapped at the convention center. They were waiting for food. They were waiting for water. They were waiting for help, for rescue. And this went on for days, right? This is not like, just a couple of hours or a day or whatever. This went on for the better part of a week where the federal government did not get aid into a city. And what's really interesting looking back on this, because I was very young when Katrina happened. I mean, I have very conscious memories of it. I was roughly 12 years old or so. But what was on TV was not headlines really about human beings or the response. What was on TV was headlines about looters and crime and the media showing people looting stores, as they call it, and calling them dangerous. And basically, you have everyone from the then Democratic governor saying that, this is unacceptable, and I am livid that people are taking advantage of this situation. And you have, President Bush flying over the city, and stopping in Alabama to see a whole bunch of white families, but refusing to go on the ground in New Orleans because he says, I'm not sure that it's safe. The real reality, per General Russell Honore, who was from Louisiana, who ended up getting put in charge of the Hurricane Katrina task force, the reality was these people were trying to survive in a situation in which their government had essentially abandoned them. People were trying to survive. People were going to stores, they were getting as much as they could, and they were bringing it back to the convention center to give to elderly people who were literally dying. I mean, you have people living in squalor, no running water, nothing, for days on end in August in New Orleans. And no help to be found. And the first people on site are National Guardsmen with guns, right? National Guardsmen with guns who are there to restore order. Well, how the fuck can you restore order when the citizens are literally dying and desperate? And again, this is just something that has set in my mind right now, because the idea that these people weren't victims, but they were threats, and that the National Guard would roll in, not with supplies immediately, but with guns. That it really feels like the city wasn't helped in these initial days. The city was occupied. And it was all because we bought into this idea that survival was something criminal when it was really just human. So, let's fast forward to today. You have Trump sending the National Guard into LA and into DC. Now, I understand you're saying these are two different situations. This is in the aftermath of a major natural disaster, all of this. And of course, that's true. And that's not the case in LA or in DC. But he's now talking about sending them into Chicago. And this all comes to me from the same playbook, right? Same playbook, different decade. Take these communities that need resources, that need investment, and treat them like battlefields instead, right? We should have learned this lesson already. Militarizing people's pain doesn't fix anything. Yes, Chicago has issues. DC has issues. LA has issues. All major cities have issues. And militarizing that and taking advantage of it and putting troops on the streets is not a helpful solution, never has been. It doesn't heal, it doesn't rebuild, it just adds fear, and it makes the people who are already suffering there feel even more abandoned. So, I just want to say that, if Donald Trump really believes that there's a crisis of crime in America, and I don't believe he thinks that, but if Donald Trump really believes that there's a crisis of crime in America's cities, that calls for compassion, not combat. The government should be showing up in ways to help these communities get better. Because if Katrina taught us anything, it's that when you strip people of their humanity in the headlines, you set the stage for violence in the streets. And there was violence in the streets. And you know where most of that violence came from? White people shooting black people in various neighborhoods in Katrina. Literally just putting signs up where they were spray painting that they would shoot anyone who was looting or loitering. And it did happen. People were getting shot and killed. And some of those people ended up getting prosecuted. Some of them didn't. Fortunately, some of them did get prosecuted and went to jail. But they literally were making jokes, and there's video of them in the documentary. You can see some of these people with video of them basically bragging about how great it was to shoot these looters, right? and then like kind of like, very disgustingly mocking, like doing bad like jive voices and accent. Like it was really offensive language. But all of this is to say that we can't keep making this mistake. And so I don't think that this is really about crime with Donald Trump. But if it was, sending in the National Guard is not the solution to that problem. We need to be investing in these cities and investing in providing opportunities. And what we've seen in recent years is, yes, that has worked. It has worked in parts of Los Angeles. It has worked in parts of Baltimore. And suburbs. It has worked in parts of D.C. It has worked in a lot of various cities. We have been seeing progress on that when we actually do it the right way. I'm not saying that police are not necessary. I'm not saying that that's not something that is necessary in various circumstances. I'm not anti getting, police into communities. In fact, many of these communities want more police presence. But troops and police are not the same thing. We kept talking about community policing and how important it is to have people representing their own communities, right? Like protecting their own communities. This is foreign people from foreign states coming in to another state and essentially oppressing the people there. And it's not okay. And if there's anything that I couldn't stop thinking about watching this fantastic documentary about the government's failed response to Hurricane Katrina, it's that we're making similar mistakes, and the media is making similar mistakes in the way that they are framing these discussions.
That's very, very well said. During your monologue, all I can really think about is dictators rule by fear. That's why they do these things. Like you're asking, haven't we learned? Yeah, we've learned. Like we know what proper help looks like for a community that is in need, and they probably know that too. But doing things that way doesn't give them power. Fear gives them power. When you scare everyone into complacency, that is when you have the most power, and there's nothing they could do against you. And that's why dictators across human history have always done that. They've always ruled by fear and ensured, and their policies, support that theory. And it's not dissimilar here, where people in charge understand that instilling fear and stomping something tangible is a much quicker avenue to power than helping your neighbor and pulling him up to stand next to you as opposed to grovel at your feet. But great point, man. I couldn't agree more. I'm so happy that the first time that you and I went to New Orleans, we saw a lot of damage by Katrina that is still kept up to this day as like a homage to the destruction that happened then. And we heard stories of people and how they had to like all collectively, hop onto the rooftops, and how they were like running out of food, and they like had to wait for like the helicopters to come and like drop them stuff. And it was all kinds of incredible stories that I never knew about, even growing up in California. I remember the news that day. Interestingly enough, I don't remember a lot of news on looting. But one thing that did interest me about the news and how it did cover Katrina when I was a kid is I remember seeing almost exclusively pictures of physical damage. And I think it's corroborated by the fact that I don't know these stories, is that I don't remember ever seeing things about people. About like the people who were like, stuck, and like people who lost things. It was all like, this is a house that's like destroyed. Here's a house in a tree. Here's a factory that tipped over or whatever. Like it was all like these like kind of broader, I guess, eye-catching, spectacle of the damage. But the news where I lived never covered like the more interpersonal effects that it had on people and on the community.
I think that that's probably accurate. I would just say, like, I can't recommend this documentary enough, honestly, because it does touch on the human stories. It also just really shows how the government was very actively willing to try and just toss blame rather than figure out solutions. I mean, the mayor hated the governor hated the president hated both of them. Like, they weren't working together. The head of FEMA was a joke. He was an absolute joke, Michael Brown, and he ended up having to resign because of this. But he should not have been in that position. That was like a country club appointment to him. And the only person that really got any shit done was General Russell Honore, who, honestly, in watching this, it's like, why couldn't this man have been president? Like, this dude got on the ground, and not only did he get on the ground, he took cameras around with him because he said, I have to change the narrative about what's going on. And he went around for about 9 hours with cameras following him, and he just kept screaming at people, put your fucking guns away. Like, put your guns away, because he was like, this is not why we're here. We're not here to do crowd control. We're here to get these people the fuck out of this city so that they can survive. And so that was really, I mean, I say inspiring. It was sad that that had to happen, but it was inspiring that there was somebody who had some sense, who could come in and actually, you know, try to address the situation. But meanwhile, you had people going on national television in the aftermath. The head of the Homeland Security was literally said, like, I don't understand why people didn't evacuate. These people didn't evacuate. Well, they didn't have the means to evacuate, you fucking idiot. Like, I just, like, it's shaming people. And he literally said, he's like, there's been discussion about why we should even have a city here in this location at all. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. And then it cuts to Jon Stewart saying, yes, New Orleans is at fault for existing. Like, you know, like, it's so frustrating seeing how they reacted to this. And there's no way, I still to this day believe, you know, we always made fun of Kanye for George Bush doesn't care about black people, but he wasn't wrong. If that had not been a black city, it would have been a vastly different situation. There's no way they would have let this happen to the scale that it happened. And the devastation in terms of loss of life would not have been this. So 10 out of 10, recommend you watching the documentary if you're listening. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I haven't watched it. Now I will. And everyone else should too. But great points. Yeah. Great points.
All right, what you got for us, Tyler?
I have something lighter and something that frustrated me literally today.
Great.
And I see it continuing everywhere. And this is like just a very general frustration. So I'm yelling it at, you know, our corporate overlords. Stop paywalling the news. Like, why should I shouldn't need to pay money to see a news article from a trusted, you know, news source. What is going on? You guys are supposed to be all about, you know, sharing news, spreading information, ensuring that people are, you know, well informed on matters both local and national. And I have to pay you to view your content. I cannot access your news now without having some portion of disposable income that I can then use to just be informed. That goes against like the very nature of news and of why like newspapers exist in the first place. And this is so frustrating and so ridiculous that this is happening now, especially now when the news is so much more important than it has been in a long, long time, maybe ever, with misinformation, with things that you find on the internet. All of a sudden, real news is saying, no, we're not going to combat, you know, fake news and misinformation. No, you're going to pay us if you want to access the real news. I cannot harp on this enough, that if this is the trend that all news companies especially online, are going to start taking, I am scared for the future of information. That's horrible. That's horrible. Remove your paywalls. Let anyone access your news articles, at least online. Like, come on. Shame on you, CNN. Shame on you.
There's a term you use there, and I'm not familiar with this. I'm hoping you can help me with this. What is a newspaper? I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with that. What is a newspaper?
Oh, it's this book that some 12-year-old would throw on your lawn every morning.
I see. Wow, what a quaint little idea.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we did used to have to pay for newspapers, so, like, I guess that is the mentality is that now, yes, you should probably have to pay for something you get online, if you are looking for news.
But here's the thing. We're already paying for the ability to be online. Should content not available online be available to people who already have to be online?
Well, I'm not paying Warner Brothers for the ability to be online. That's not my internet provider, so...
Well, no, but... News should be free. Fuck it.
All right. I do agree with you that couldn't you just take a loss? Like some of these organizations, like you can't take a loss on news. Like you can't just to prioritize for the betterment of the country. Like this is an issue that you and I know agree on. But like the desire and drive to make sure that news turns a profit has made it so we hate each other, because now it is all like trying to make us feel a certain way rather than just telling us the news. And that's why Fox News exists, and that's why if you turn on CNN, MSNBC, any of them, News Nation for that matter, it's just people yelling at each other all the time. Because that's apparently news now, and I'm tired of that. And local news is dying. And I think local news dying is a bad thing. I do. I think that local news used to be... I mean, the fact that local news has died is the reason that we got George Santos. Like, if local news hadn't been... You guys remember George Santos? That was the guy who... We're not even sure that's his real name. He's now in prison, but he, was like scamming people, and he lied. He said he had gone to college when he hadn't gone to college. He said he was a volleyball star. That man definitely has never played volleyball. And he did get evicted from his seat in Congress because he had lied about so many things. But yeah, George Santos would not have existed if we'd had local news, right? Like, if local news could have survived, they would have caught on to these lies a lot sooner. Like, that's historically how they caught things in, like, local races. But if you nationalize and make things at a state level, they don't have all the resources to go in every community and do background checks on all these people. So people can be voting about candidates. They have no idea whether any of the shit that they're saying is true. I could run for office tomorrow and be like, I was the last person to visit Mars. Like, anyway. Yeah, you're right. News should be free. Great point. Even though, news wasn't always free. We did pay for newspapers.
Yeah, whatever. But with that, we'll end the episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any ideas, comments, concerns, please let us know. You can find us on Instagram at ReUnitedStatesPod. And from Los Angeles, California, my name is Tyler Ehrig.
And from Manchester, New Hampshire, I'm Jesse Saywell.
And this has been Reunited States.
When the whole world has got you down, and there's no one else around, turn that crown right upside down.